I am very excited to bring on my guest, the author of We Want Our Bodies Back, an amazing book of poems. Her name is Jessica Care Moore. Jessica, how are you?
Hey Ben, I'm good. I'm hanging in. I'm in Detroit and it's 90 degrees. So I'm good.
Is that unusual for Detroit?
Yeah, we get our summers are hot and then our winters are extremely cold. So we get the extreme. We don't really have a lot of middle ground. So yeah, 90 is kind of hot for us.
I understand. And you got the hat on still.
I like it hot and I don't complain. We've been quarantined we're very much on lockdown here. So being able to go out on my patio and the sun on my face, I don't complain. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Let me tell the people a little bit about you, if I may. Jessica Care Moore is the founder and CEO of More Black Press, executive producer of Black Women Rock, and founder of the literacy-driven Jess Care Moore Foundation, an international renowned poet, playwright, performance artist, and producer. Oh, is that all? Is what 2019 and 2017 Nike Arts Award winner, 2016 Kresge Arts Fellow, NAACP Great Expectations awardee, a Lane Locke Award recipient from the Detroit Institute of Arts. Moore is the author of The Words Don't Fit in My Mouth, The Alphabet versus the Ghetto, Sunlight Through Bullet Holes, and the critically acclaimed techno choreo poem, Salt City. Her work has been published in numerous literary collections, and she has performed on stages all over the world, including the Apollo Theater. I would love to perform there one day. Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, and the London Institute for Contemporary Arts. She lives and writes in the historic Detroit neighborhood with her son, King Thomas. Yes. And you might also know her from the Nas album, Nostradamus, The Prediction and the Outcome.
1999, I did that.
Wow.
That was like that was probably my second professional recording. My first one with a rapper.
Or with a lot of rappers. Number two.
Yeah, Antonio Hart, Impulse Records, saxophone player. We recorded it for his album Here I Stand before that. So, and some independent stuff, but Nas is the 99 one. That was a big one. I was running around Brooklyn at that time. So it's a big deal to open and close Nas's album.
Incredible. How often does a rapper let somebody else open and close their album, or do either?
Listen, they're too narcissistic for something like that. It blew my mind because he said that he wanted me to be the first and the last thing that people heard on the album, which is pretty extraordinary for a rapper to say. So yeah, and then of course now I've worked with Talib Kweli. Talib signed me to his. He's one of my dearest friends and signed me in 2015 to his label and put out my album Black Tea, The Legend of Jesse James. So he gets the big nod because he pushed out an entire project of mine. I get asked by a lot of rappers to be on their albums. I'm kind of over it, to be honest.
Me too.
But I'm much more interested. Do you?
Yeah.
I want to hit them bars. You got bars?
Of course I got bars. I'm a rapper. People don't believe it, but I had a rapper for a while called Benz.
Benz?
Yeah.
I believe you, but your voice is right. You got that nice rugged voice, though. I could hear you
in
the studio, But they always want me to intro their shit. I want my bars. I want my publishing. I want to be in a verse, and they usually want to kind of just me put a little something sprinkle on it. But I mean, I've been Kareem Riggins. I'm on Head Nod Suite, his wonderful album, and so I just recorded during the pandemic. I recorded another record with Kareem Riggins, and so I'm hoping that'll make his next project. He's got lots of cool people on the project, like John Mayer and all kinds of folks. So
that's amazing. If you drop on someone's album with a sample like that, you don't get residuals for it? You must, right? You must get royalties.
Yeah, I get my publishing. Absolutely. Yeah. But you don't, if you gotta have your paperwork. The industry is an ugly beast. And so I've had to have lawyers and things and people in place to make sure that I get money. Because people kind of think you're just, I write poems. Yeah, it's how I make a living, like the house. This is the house that Poems, bought. I drive the Cadillac that Poems put gas in that caddy.
Nice.
And yeah, but you can't, people kind of just assume that you could just give poetry away. And I do give it away, like, especially for the last 3 months, how I met you. I'm constantly online kind of just giving it, right? Because why shouldn't I? I'm home. I'm not in a plane like I'm normally flying somewhere in front of an audience, and I'm at the house with my son. So I'm not gonna not give. And so I'm excited to be here, even like to be talking, because it helps you, it helps you stay sane, helps you stay creative, to have exchanges with human beings and talk about like the work that I'm doing. I want to hear about what other people are doing, which is why I started an Instagram show, like stuff I wasn't doing any of that before, Ben. Like I never went live on Instagram or Facebook. After you get off the road, you kind of just want to be home. And so like a lot of my independent artist friends, like we're bugged out because we're so used to, being on the spring that's popping for me. That's March is Women's History Month. April was National Poetry Month. I got grounded. Like,
oof.
Are you serious right now, COVID? Like, are you serious? Like,
we all wish that we could be off the road for a while, and we got what we wish for. Am I wrong about that? My God.
I've turned corny. Like I'm starting a garden. I never had time to garden and shit. I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's, and it's good to laugh too, because it's been a hard 3 months. And then I'm in Detroit and we got hit hard. Like I started losing people in that first week. I felt sorry for myself and my gigs. For like, my book came out March 31st during the pandemic. So, here I am with a book on HarperCollins, which is a huge deal for me to be like, I'm the first Black woman poet since Gwendolyn Brooks on HarperCollins. Like such an honor, so crazy. Just wanted to like get out and share all this work. And then suddenly like, okay, by the way, all your book events are canceled. All your college gigs are gone. But my friends started dying. And then I didn't care. I was like, okay, so what? What's money? Yeah, I didn't care about it anymore. And so I was like, well, what do I have to do now? I have to help. I have to give,
What do you think has changed in the world from this pandemic? Do you think anything will be a lasting change? And like, what message do you think we're going to take from it?
I've changed, to be honest. Like I have a little anxiety with people. And I'm a people person. I'm do a 90-minute keynote, 2-3 hour. I'm hugging and talking, especially with college kids, man. I'm talking, I'm engaging with people. I'm not an artist that comes on, does a spill, and then leaves out, and can't find them backstage, right? I come out and I'm with the people. So I'm the opposite of social distancing. So I've changed, and I think it's going to take a while before people feel comfortable, in audiences and crowds. And even though as much as I miss audiences, I can't wait to get back to them. I think, and just on a lighter note, I think the planes are going to be cleaner. I'm like, okay, because they used to be nasty.
Yes. I hope that's true. Plus, they're not going to seat people in middle seats for a while, which is going to be very nice.
No, middle seats shouldn't exist anyway.
Agreed.
So, we should eliminate middle seats because nobody wants to sit there.
Yes.
Or they should be cheaper. I don't know why we get to pay the same money to sit between two people. So
do you think that society is gonna change at all in some positive way from the lockdown? Because everybody's like, oh, we finally learned what it's like to not have so many cars on the road and to not be hustling and bustling. But my sad theory is that we pop right back. We're gonna go right back to everything.
I hope not. I hope that we actually learn from this, because I've learned what I don't need. That's for sure. Like how much I don't have to buy. Like I bought like one pair of shoes. Okay, admittedly, I bought one pair. But since the pandemic, but I'm thinking about the things that matter and how much money you need to survive off of. Like I was out freaking out about money, and I was just like, I'm not about to freak out about money. I'm not gonna lose my house. Me and my son are eating food. Like, like you get all excited, and then you're like, wait, we can actually survive with less. And I think that's the things that matter. Ben, I've had 3 different women friends of mine bring homemade bread to my porch.
Wow.
They're doing bread drop-offs. I was like, can we make what we do? They're like, I make banana bread, and I never made that. So I'm like giving it to my neighbors. So me and my neighbors across the street, wonderful couple, has 2 kids around my son's age. They barbecue every other day. They're putting stuff on the grill for us. Like we're home, so we're all getting to know each other better. So I think that's going to be the reset. The issue that we're dealing with now is the other pandemic that was happening before the COVID-19, which is racism. And so now, like, what's crazy is that during a health crisis, we have thousands of people on the street protesting to try to make the world better for humanity in a whole different way. But it's all interconnected, right? Because access to healthcare. Like I'm a full-time artist, 25 years now. I got a kid, so I had to figure out how to get health insurance. But there were many years I did not have health insurance. And so many of my artist friends don't have health insurance. And just say, the health insurance is your kitchen, is making sure that you eat right so you don't get sick. If you break something, you're SOL. And so that's been the thing that we have to fix. We have to fix this country. And I say I'm saying like my son's 13, like, the 20 something year olds, the ones that are out there on that street, those 18 and 19, 20. I remember I was that age. I was on them streets too. I get it. But they're inheriting something, and they absolutely have to do something to change the world better. And I think we're going to come out of this better people, better human beings. But the fact that we are having civil unrest during a complete health crisis is amazing. And normally, I was in Ferguson on the ground, which is with this poem that you heard me read, I Can't Breathe. I wrote that. I think
you're going to do for us in a little bit too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I wrote that for Eric Garner, Mike Brown. Because the thing is, when you are in this work, you've seen so many of these. Like we could have had Sandra Bland. That could have been the civil unrest. Tamir Rice. The little boy got murdered in Ohio. We could have all been under. But the video, I guess and I think it's because people are home.
Right. Some people are saying that. Some people are saying exactly that. Sadly, we'll tell you what we can get, but it took a global pandemic and everybody being forced to be home with nothing else to do to finally be forced to take notice of how Black people are treated in this country.
Yeah, because it's something that we deal with. I dealt with my whole life. That's what, like, when did you start dealing with policing? I'm like, when wasn't I dealing with policing? When I'm a young girl, I was a young girl in Detroit. So, as soon as I was old enough to hang out with boys, as soon as I was old enough to get into a car and drive in a car with boys, police were a part of my life. Like, that's it. Because Black boys, especially, or even badass little white boys, whoever I was hanging out with, we're getting pulled over by the police. And so that was probably around 15. 16,
And the difference, though, correct me if I'm wrong, but the white privilege that I think society is trying to learn what that even is, maybe a lot of us for the first time in the last 2 weeks, is like my worst run-in with the cops was one time I was leaving a friend's birthday party with a white friend of mine late at night, heading somewhere, not even late at night, like midnight, and we're walking out and a cop car pulls up and came out and said we matched the description of two guys they were looking for, and they handcuffed us and they had us lean over the cop car, and they were, not soft with us, but I never for a minute was scared. I never for a minute thought this could go bad. I was joking. I couldn't wait till the moment where I could ask the cop if I can get a picture of this, because it was such a weird moment. That's some of the difference. Am I right or am I wrong? That's a big part.
I freak out when any cop car gets behind me. I immediately have anxiety, and I know I'm not doing anything. I don't do anything illegal. I don't break the law. Even if I was like running a stop sign, anything silly, if I make a mistake and turn right on whatever, if they get behind me, I'm freaking out. Like, and my son is 13. I remember we got pulled over by just a Wayne State University cop, just a college, campus cop, which has military equipment, by the way, in Detroit, which is what the defund movement is about. It's like getting military equipment away from like Wayne State University cops. I went to that school. What they need? They don't need military equipment. They're the college, they're monitoring the college campus, which is one of the safest areas in Detroit. Is that area is Wayne State. I was like, y'all need tanks? Y'all need AR-15? No, you don't.
How did our cops go from donuts to drones? Where did that evolution?
I like them with donuts and just the regular guns that we all got in Detroit. Everybody got the guns they got. I'm like, that ain't. Everybody got a gun in Detroit. Like, grandmamas are strapped here. It's like, it's so real.
So what do you see, if you see anything different this time, and what do you think that we can do to make sure this time it takes hold a little bit differently?
What I see different is I see a lot of young white kids in the street protesting, and that's you have all kinds of different feelings about it, right? Because in Minneapolis, like, they're trying to hijack our movement. So you have the ones that are like the anarchists who are just really out there for their own personal gain, and then you have like some of these white kids who I've been watching online, like fighting against their very conservative parents. Like my son is 13. He just showed me a young man on TikTok who's been kicked out of his home, supposedly by parents, fighting their politics. And there was a young girl, Pete Rock put up this young girl who was like arguing with her parents online about their racism.
Good.
And yeah, and dad saying, no, that they don't know they're ghetto and he's like, my dad, that's right. So I think it was because this can't be like just our struggle, right? This has to be like, what's right? Like, what are we doing wrong? Like, I grew up, I went to Cody High School. I had a mini station in my, like, police were in my schools. I like the idea of police not being in schools because when you have police in schools, you feel like it's like the mini training ground for prisons, especially public schools. Yeah. And you already feel like you're in there's schools that you walk in, they got the megaphone screaming at kids when you walk in the door. Like that, we need to take the police state out of our states. We need to absolutely, we need policing. We need community policing. We need to feel like we know the police officers who are walking. We need policemen walking on the ground and women walking on the ground, knowing the neighbors. Like if we fix the education, right, then crime will go down. We won't even need as many police. If we put money into mental health and helping people with mental health conditions, right? People who are doing crazy crimes because they're not well. Instead of throwing them in a cell, we actually help them get the rehab they need, but we don't do rehabilitation. And that's been a part of my work as a poet and a writer. I've been in the jails. I've been in the juvenile detention centers 7 years in St. Louis juvenile detention centers, been in Redwood, California with all men male facilities, with grown men who had done all kinds of atrocious things, but they were in a program that got them to a certain floor where they could come and talk to a person like me, right, who was in the jail. And they're looking at me like, why are you in this prison? And I was like, because y'all look like my cousins, my daddies, you're human beings, because I care. Because if you ever get out of here, I want you to understand somebody outside loves you, right? And we have to have compassion, even for people who've made mistakes. And so it's hard, for people to be that way. I mean, I'm anti-death penalty, and people are like, what if it happened to if it was your mom? I was like, I still wouldn't want the person to die. Right. So, and that's just who I am. But getting people to just, I think the world has to, unfortunately, sometimes things have to completely get torn apart in order for us to build back up. So we got some work to do.
What do you think of this phrase I saw on social media the other day? Somebody said that for systemic racism to finally end, we need white people to stop thinking this is a problem that Black people have to deal with, that we feel empathy for, and instead realize this is a white problem that we created that we have to fix.
Yeah, I don't know what color the problem is, but I know that it is definitely systemic and it's definitely institutionalized. It's in our side of our schools. My son goes to private school. It's what I'm dealing with, just in trying to educate my son, my Black child, who's a free-thinking individual, and the way that they want Black boys to stay in line and sit still and all these things that don't really work for their personalities, like understanding that there are cultural differences and that people learn differently. So it's not a white problem. There's a humanity problem in America, and there's an honesty problem, right? So like white kids and Black kids are not getting taught how this country came to be. And it's, because why are we protesting? I'm like, that's how we get shit done. Like, what do you mean? Like, if we don't protest and riot and fight, then my ancestors would be enslaved, or my indigenous ancestors, maybe, wouldn't have reservations. At least they don't have enough, but they wouldn't have any land because this is indigenous land. So it's like, we talk about Columbus. We don't teach about the indigenous struggle. We don't talk about indigenous genocide in American history books. So I'm always having to read, my son is my son. So I got him and he's looking at the teachers like, are you kidding me? Columbus didn't discover America. That's my kid at 9.
Right. Mostly white authors that we study.
It's ridiculous. And they don't even talk about the Middle Passage. The transatlantic slave trade is like a blip. It's like a 2-page thing. And they'll say like, oh, the slaves weren't so bad. And slavery's always existed. And I'm like, no, nothing like American slavery existed. And then, and so we have a lot of work to do, because it's going to tell, only Black kids are going to know about that. And you're not telling the white kids what's going on. They're just being fed the BS their parents are giving them. And you're just entitled and privileged. I mean, even my son's been growing up in a very privileged environment. He's an artist kid. He's traveled all over the world. And I've always, even tell him like the things that you have, everyone doesn't have, and so I'm trying to balance him out. And he's a black boy. I'm balance him out because he doesn't get it either all the way. So he's asking 1,000 questions right now, and I'm trying to answer all of them from my kid, because this is this thing that this is 8th grade graduation was this. He's like, Mommy, this is what and then when Trump, he was like, see, he knew President Obama was his president. All he knew was a black man was the president because he was born in 2006. So he would see the American flag and he would be like, Obama. And I used to be like, yo, that's crazy to me.
That's cool.
Trump got elected. I remember I was doing a gig. I was in South America, in Brazil. And my son was terrified. Trump won when I was gone. And I came back home and he was just traumatized. He was scared. He was like, I don't want to become a teenager. I'll never forget it. He said, I don't want to become a teenager while he's president. And now here he is, a teenager, and look what's happening. And, my mother, who's 75, who came from Canada when she was 17 to marry my father in Detroit and has been here ever since, nearly on the phone in tears because she was with my father fighting against segregation, with Martin Luther King. And for her, she's like, I can't believe I would ever see an American president firing on protesters just to go to a photo op with a Bible he can barely hold. She was devastated. She's 75.
I mean, I think beyond that, I think he, how they say he held it upside down. I really think he spent all that time trying to make sure he grabbed it the same way Hitler grabbed it in that photo that they could.
Is that what he was trying? I would believe it. I mean, we're dealing with a dictator here, and he's definitely a fascist, and I don't know. I feel like there's to me grounds for him to get pushed out of office. But the Republican silence, the Republican silence is scary to me. There's a couple people who have come out, but I don't know what they're so scared of. Oh, I was like, come on, y'all. If that was President Obama, we would be like, yo, he gotta go. And with President Obama, if he was shooting on protesters like that, we would and there were black people who took President Obama to task on things.
And President Obama ate the wrong kind of salad, and people were like, he's got to go. He's eating arugula. What is happening to our country?
He's got to go. Oh, my God, I wish you could have him back so bad. So I think it's so bad right now.
Campaign slogan should be Biden 2020. Obama will basically be president again.
Yes. Oh, my God. Let's get the Obamas back.
Yes.
They'll have dinner together and stuff. We'll get to watch them walk back in. I'm like,
oh, my God.
I mean, but it's so bad right now that it can only get better. And so that's what I'm looking at. we're tearing it down. And I had to explain to my son about buildings on fire because that was a big thing. My son, I'm living with Gandhi and shit. He's like Gandhi and I'm like Malcolm X. So Malcolm and Gandhi are in the same crib. And because I've raised this really peaceful kid somehow. And he's like, Mommy, I don't understand tearing down burning the building. I said, I know, baby. I said, so I was like, but the building doesn't mean anything if you're on fire, right? So I was like, so just think about Mommy is already on fire. So I'm like a bird. So what's more important, the building? So if Mommy's burning and the building's burning, which one are you going to put out first? And he's like, okay. I said, well, that's it. I said, so we have to help the people that are burning up. We have to help the people that are dying. Because that's a building, it's an inanimate object.
Right.
We can get that back, but we can't get people's lives back. And so,
right. And the video. Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. Just trying to get. It's been really good for me to be in the house with a kid. Because you're trying to make it. Because that's how it is with white people.
You're seeing how people that don't quite get it yet.
Yeah, my white friends are and then some of them are just don't know what to do. Now, let me just say this to my white friends who, are not racist and are on the good side of things. You don't have to do anything. I've been offered, what do I need to do, Jessica? I was like, they want to send me some money, or I was like, listen, if you're a good person, you know what I mean? And you have if you own a store, if you have good practices, if you're making sure that you're not being biased with your hiring, you're making opportunities for black and brown people and black and brown women, then you're doing the work. You know what I mean? I don't feel like, all this, the white guilt piece, you don't have to make people feel bad. It's just, people have to just be aware, because there's a lot of black out of touch folks too, who, because of socioeconomic differences, some black rich folks in this country, you know what I mean, who don't feel the need to get involved with radical change all the time.
Yeah. I think you got to be involved to some degree. I went to a protest yesterday, and my sign said something that I think people think is controversial, but I think is necessary. I wrote, silent people, are you racist or are you cowards?
Mm.
I think that's the only two options there. How can you not say something? You don't have to go to a protest, but something at least on your social media, to your friends, to your family. How can you be silent during a time when for the millionth time we are saying all human beings should be treated the same in this world? Black Lives Matter.
2020. It's 2020. What the hell?
Bonkers.
I don't understand it. Like, I don't know, but I feel like the majority of people are good, right? I feel like the majority of us really are on the same path, but the people in power are not the ones who are reflecting, I think, the good, right? And I try to be optimistic in that way, that we can't all just be straight from hell. Like, I was like, you know what I mean? Some of us are like good people who want change. I know good people who come in all colors and shades, right? And I know jerks in all colors and shades, but it is understanding institutionalized racism requires education. It requires empathy. It requires you just really like get outside of yourself, right? And like try to put yourself in someone else's lens, because if you've never experienced like your police experience, like, you know what I mean? Like your lens is so limited because of why you wouldn't imagine how many times I had to deal with police. I've been arrested. I've been surrounded by cops with like guns drawn with my boyfriend and Vic were doing nothing, unarmed, whatever. He was speeding. Like, you know, that many cop cars. I never forget Oakland County. I'm like 18 years old. Like that's normal, you know. A little bit different in Detroit is that we are a predominantly Black city and we do have Black cops. And that's something we have to address. Like in Ferguson, there was a problem because I went to St. Louis when Mike Brown was killed. When they killed Mike Brown and left his body for all his friends to watch his head bleed out for many hours in the middle of the street in their neighborhood. And they don't live in that neighborhood. So you have people coming from outside policing other people's children that they don't love. And that is the problem with education. And that's the problem with policing.
Why aren't those changes obvious? Why shouldn't it be obvious to every community? Hire your police from your own community. Why isn't that easy one?
The prison industrial complex, man. If you study like, Angela Davis and what she's been doing for such a long time, like the prison industrial complex is all about money. It's an economic reality. It's like it's a part of what keeps this machine called America going. It's free labor. It's the new slavery. Yeah. And so policing and prisons are connected. Prison pipeline is a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
As soon as my son gets I'm looking at his age, he's turning 14. I was like, King, this is when it becomes a problem. This is when like I'm really got my arms around my son, worried, like not wanting to be afraid to have him go anywhere with friends or standing around on a corner, like nothing. Like I'm so protective over him, afraid because he's now becomes a threat. The taller he gets, starts looking like a man. And then people are afraid of you, King, and you don't even know why. He's like one of the sweetest boys in the whole world. But people are gonna fear you just because you're gonna be a tall Black man. And he's smart. So my son will pull out the law book, but mommy, the rights. I was like, baby. They don't like smart ones either.
Mm-hmm.
And like having these hard conversations, like telling your son how to react to police. This is how you have to talk. Like like what kind of place is this? This is the first world. This is America. Like we're so behind. We're behind if you just look at our prison population compared to other countries. Like it's sad. We have full countries in prison.
Yeah, and we have the biggest per capita of any country by far, the biggest prison population of the world, and all of the elements of it are really it's a vestige of slavery, right? I mean, even cash bail that disproportionately affects minority communities because they don't have the access to cash to be able to pay that, so they end up being locked up before a trial ever happens.
Well, of course, yeah, because you don't have the money. Nobody has the $500 to $1,000, whatever, to get you out.
I heard another really, I think, pretty apt thing. You mentioned how our politicians how are they not standing up? But even the Democrats are not really, they say nice things sometimes, but then they're so ineffective.
Yeah, it's really anecdotal. You know what I mean?
I heard a really impactful thing I read that said that the Republicans are, drawing an analogy to George Floyd, saying the Republicans are the cop with their knee on his neck, and the Democrats are the ones standing there letting it happen.
Around. Check that out. That's deep. I mean, because if you're not, and someone that just did like a photo shoot, Danny Simmons was really upset about it. I wasn't mad at the photo shoot where they all had on like kente cloth, the Democrat.
Yeah.
It was, and like that's anecdotal, right? That's like, okay, but we need to change laws. like that's what the Democrats have to help us do. We have to change laws so that policemen like that don't think they can do that and get away with it. Like the officer was only doing that because he thought he was well protected by the system. And so we have to change the system. We have to change laws, and you have to, like Dick Gregory always spoke about hitting them where it hurts. And like, do you care more about like taking their money away? Like you say, okay, well, if you do this, we find out you were aggressive, then with an arrest, then you lose $15,000.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So they start thinking, well, do I care about my family? Or do I want to or do I care about being a racist? Like, which one is more right now? Like, do you really mess up, just beat this dude up because you can, and you just hate him for no reason because of the color of his skin, which is like so 1902. Like, what are you doing? Like,
that's so smart though. It's a good idea. It's like, even if you can't root out all the racists, you can hit them in their pocketbook. You can hit them where it hurts. You can have them do peer reviews and have to report every detail of when a gun is drawn, every detail of all the things that make them at least realize there will be consequences for actions that don't follow the book.
Let's go, Ben. I mean, that's it. That's how you get people to react, because they're like, oh, you're messing with, and then some other cop is doing that. And you stand there, maybe you'll say something because you don't want to get fired or get your money deducted or get your gun taken. Like, take their guns from them. Like, first offense, blah, 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 this happened. Second, okay, your gun's gone. You know what I mean? You're sitting down. You're taking a break. Like, dude, and stop hiring your racist friends, because they're doing that too. It's a network. So some of it is like, there's been those people showing like the KKK, with the police officer. They're just the Klan, but it's far more sophisticated than the Klan ever was. Klan, they were like vigilantes. They weren't organized in a way.
Right.
This is the quiet, the quiet danger. Because you don't know who's good or who's not.
Right, they infiltrated the actual system that is trusted, the system with the power, the system with the ability to force everybody to listen. You can't call the cops a fringe group.
Yeah, and we can't call the cops at all. And like you people that's supposed to protect you, you can't even call them, because you call them and they might shoot you instead. And that's the problem. And like, they're supposed to be there. We're paying our tax dollars, good as anybody else's, pays for their asses to have a job. And then I can't call you and make sure that, and I'm scared to call you because I'm a Black woman. You might come in and kill me like you killed Breonna Taylor. You might mistake me for the assailant. Like, what I mean? So it's like, it's a horrible, we're in a horrible place, man, a horrible place as a country, but we've been in this place. So thank you. Hi. You seeing me for the first time? Razvan Mendru. What a beautiful name.
I know you're already huge, but I want the world to find out about you even more so, because you're so brilliant. Your poems captivate me, and the way you speak, even extemporaneously about the world, just, I don't know, you exude passion in a way that, like, if we all had an ounce of your passion, I feel like an ounce of your humanity, we would go a long way towards healing this world.
Thank you, Ben. Oh, you're so sweet. I'm so glad I met you. Thank you.
Same. Would you do us the honor of reading the poem for us that you read the other night in this?
Yeah,
I've been helping host this weekly conversation called The Other America, and you were on the first one, and you read a poem that just blew me away.
Thank you. And I wrote this. I was really traumatized by my experience in Ferguson, being on the ground there as a poet and activist. I just went there because I've been teaching at the Juvenile Detention Center for like 6 or 7 years. And so I knew the kids there. So I was talking to Talib, and we were just like, are you sick of looking at this? And I was like, yeah, I'm sick of looking at this. And so we could afford to fly and go. We got a hotel. We went, we got on the street with the rest of the activists. And
Talib Kweli, obviously.
Yeah, Talib Kweli and Rosa Clemente. It was a great Afro-Weekend activists out of New York City, and a group called the Peace Poets out of the Bronx. So it's a whole bunch of us out there. So this is called I Can't Breathe. So I'll give it to George Floyd. I'm in Detroit and I can't breathe. The air is being sucked out of my city. The poor don't have water, and everything new means no niggas. I can't breathe. There is a smoking gun down my throat with promises of a post-racial America. I can't swallow the chamber. It is stuck in 1967, and it keeps reloading after it pierces the bodies of our unarmed babies. I can't breathe because I'm being rushed on a sidewalk in the middle of a peaceful protest by a militarized police force in Missouri. They are yelling, I got one, I got one. I am half running, distraught, searching for Talib's hand. Rosa is a few steps ahead. The air is thick and ugly and dense, and I can't breathe. I'm being forced to lie face down on the cement in Ferguson with AR-15s pointed at my back. A long brown teenage boy is shaking in Rosa's lap. A young thick girl stands up anyway. I pull her back down and ask her to please wait. In Atlanta, a beautiful young activist tells me she's arrested at 6 p.m. and driven around by officers till 2 a.m. before finally being booked with no explanation. We know who you are, they say, hoping to replace her breath with fear. And now she doesn't know how to tell her story of being kidnapped. She can't breathe. Who can push out fresh air in this country anymore? The rich, the corporation? We should all be choking to death from Fox News, processed food, and white supremacy. My 19-year-old calls me after hearing I'm in Ferguson to ask me to please go home. And he hasn't lived with me in years. So I'm trying to figure out this geographic location of this place, home, the place we should feel the safest. And I'm wondering where all this rage has been, because when you acknowledge race, you're called the racist. Mississippi, goddamn, Missouri feel hot as you. On Canfield, this young man smiles his gold at me, beautiful, bright, and bravado. You from Detroit? You a poet? I saw you on the news. This is the place where Mike Brown's blood turned to roses. The stem legs of our boys, long and racing, always swimming toward the sun, easily tripped up, life interrupted. The ones who don't love you are armed. As much as we claim this is our land, the world minority is running our country, our sweat, our women, our mothers. We birthed this nation, built it on free labor and death with no reparations, ray in sight. I need more insight on what this has to do with genocide. Everything. We are here without choice. Many of us fatherless, some of us warm-blooded, West African, Dakota, Cree, Cherokee. We are a place with no place. We are natives, beautiful somewhere people, news flagpoles and crosses, and so many more little girls, plus those 4 we will never forget. We are Moors, betrayed as whores, criminals. We the children of royalty. We red clay goddesses. We down south forces. We the trees with rings of stories. I can't breathe. I'm home from a terrifying place. And Octavia Butler, past future, past lives, scars resurface. I can't breathe. My son is 4 years from 12, and the park is his planet where he plays freely. And he knows seeds lead to flowers if you plant it. He loves Bob Marley, Faith Ringgold, and Frida Kahlo. Walks with his head up and doesn't follow. Recites Baraka, sings the blues. He thinks wearing a belt is cool. He is simply a black boy with an imagination built on a nation of poems and a mom that says, don't mess with me. Cable is a winter luxury, so we don't get our information from the idiot box. I've already had to teach my son how to act when we're pulled over by the cops. He's seen them wave and like my poems. He's seen them black and flirt and ask to call me on the phone. He's seen them white in Dearborn Heights, accusing me of running a light I did not run. Mommy, but the policeman is lying. That is the reality too, son. When I can't breathe, I cry. In a parking lot, dropping you off at hockey camp, praying the white coaches and white kids don't try to suck the beauty out of your lungs. Pray you black ice skate fast past the chokeholds, the dangerous walks from the store to buy candy. I can't breathe, so I rush to get you from school daily. A collector's mother's intuition always feels death moving around this winter in America clock. In the spaces where air is thin, humanity is forgotten, and ancestral spirit is blowing hard, and fear has pushed you into a place you don't recognize. A forced language is pushed into your mouth, whipped across your back, along the Ivory Coast, on a ship called Jesus, in the Congo, through the door no return, in an Alabama cotton field, in Chicago, in Cleveland, in Staten Island, when you look the world in its face. After attempts to hijack your spirit, take your breath loosely for a Lucy. I will inhale, God, and blow my last wind into your body. Your exhale be the Holy Ghost for this land. I can't breathe. 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 It's hard to read that poem sitting down. Thank you, Ben.
Holy everywhere.
My son is up there. I don't know what he's doing. If I heard you hear noises, my son is upstairs.
No, I didn't hear anything except that poem.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, and we want our bodies back. The title piece I wrote for Sandra Bland, and that piece is like you have to get the book and find it. It's on Audible too.
Yes,
so
where can you find it?
They can find it. It's on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Encourage people to go to local bookstores, support the local independent bookstore. They need you. They need you like poets need audience and people to buy books. The local bookstores, keep them alive by ordering through them. But We Want Our Bodies Back for Sandra Bland is probably my strongest poem in the book, and also speaks to the reality of, because we don't talk a lot, like when it's interesting for me because I'm happy that's happening with George Floyd, but I wanted more for Breonna Taylor. Like when Black women are killed by police, the outcry is not as strong, and so it's an issue.
Wow. I mean, this is the power, I think, of what art can do, is that we're so desensitized in the news to hearing about death and injustice, but when you make it filled with human pain, how do you avoid it? How do you not let it into your heart?
About being a mom. The whole poem is just about me worried about my sons, and my son's worried about me, and me worrying about my son. Like I travel away from him a lot. So like that, me getting on that first plane home every time. I'm always on the earliest flight back from a gig, so I can pick him up from school at 3:00. That's because that collective mother's intuition always hears death moving around this winter in America clock. Like that's not a poem even for me. That's like the reality of how I feel. The anxiety you feel being a Black mother in this country, raising a son. That's what it feels like. And it's hard for people to fathom that when you have a privileged existence, when you think I'm just going to send my son off to school and everything's great. And the people there protect him. I don't feel like I send my son off to school. No, don't feel like he's safe.
How do you trust any institution that's just so full of it? It seems like heart is missing. Heart and brains both are missing so much from every aspect of our institutions and of our lives. It's like, can we just lead some policy with our heart? Can we lead some policy with our common humanity and figure out what is the way to benefit the most of us, to help all of us, to not put some rule in there that's going to make people feel removed from their teachers and their mentors and their law enforcement officers and their leaders, politicians. It's why can we just never? It's so frustrating. There's so many parts of this tangled web that we have woven that it really makes you wonder, can it be fixed? How optimistic are you? Do you think we can fix systemic racism? Can we fix these flawed institutions that have been flawed for so long?
Yeah, it's gonna take some time, but we can. I do think, I believe in the People's Party. We talked about earlier, I believe that if the people speak, if we are a united front across racial and cultural backgrounds, and we show up as real good people, that we can demand things. Like what's happening in Minneapolis is revolutionary.
Amazing. I didn't expect that coming.
Whoa, and they got a liberal mayor that I was kind of like, thought he was like about it for a minute, and then he got booed because he wasn't down for for disarming the police or just defunding the police. But they're doing it. Their city council did it. And oh yeah, thank you. Don't be sad. I had to write a poem because
Cordier says I'm so incredibly sad and you had to write that poem.
Yeah, but it's what's deep about my poetry is that this is what keeps my smile on my face. So at least I have somewhere, I'm gifted where I have somewhere to put my pain. And a lot of people don't have anywhere to put it. And so that's why you see people doing other things. And so my life is full of joy.
And then how about this comment from Jan Johnson? You see the effect. I will stand with my fellow humans. This white woman cares and wants equality for all.
Come on now. Come on, white woman. Yes. I mean, good. My mother isn't Black. She does too. You know what I'm saying? Or American, artists, art, and I do believe artists. I've been saying God bless the artists, this whole pandemic, because thank God for our artists who are online, who are on Instagram, who whatever, trying to figure this thing out so that we can talk to people, because we can get people to listen, right? We can get those views and we can get people to tap. I can't believe how many views I get just on a Facebook Live. I'm like, I haven't been using this tool enough. And so I'm using it now. Like I'm going to get to my people, and I'm going to make my audience bigger, because there's a lot of like-minded people. We have to believe that. I know, because I got a good one in my house. I made him. He's got friends. And there are all these kids. I'm worried about our babies, our 12, our 13, our 14. They're coming into manhood and womanhood during this time, right? What are we doing to ensure that their lives are different? I don't want them to turn 18 and 19 and these tall, beautiful men. Like my son had a Zoom with 45 people from all over the country on it, and like about 10 of them were his boys, like some of his guy friends from Detroit. Some of the most articulate, beautiful boys you'd ever witness coming out of Detroit, where our kids don't get anything here. You got to pay to get a little something. King's been in private school, so he's been privileged with private school his whole life. This fall, we're going to try for Detroit School of the Arts and give that a whirl, right? And hoping that'll work out. But there's some beautiful, and people don't see that. They see these stereotypical images of what Black boys are. Like, it's so unfortunate, and what Black women are in the media and in Hollywood. Like, there's problems there too in the entertainment world that we're in, where the same thing is being perpetuated constantly, where all you see in movies is Black men in police, right? Black women, like, all you see is that negative. You don't ever see all the beauty and the intricate details of Black boys' geography. It's not just one thing. Like, they're very complicated, beautiful individuals, and we just need to see that reflected more in every way. But education to me is like the foundation of all these issues. When I hear people arguing online, you can tell a person that hasn't read one book. Like, you got to read Dr. Clark. You got to know who Dick Gregory is. You got to do your homework. You have to tell my son, you got to be a scholar. He's reading The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin right now. He's 13.
What a brilliant human Baldwin was. And Dick Gregory is one of my favorite people of all times, being a politically active comedian who ran for president. I feel a kinship to that man.
Come on, man. And fasted, you know what I mean? Like, so many times that he fasted for the people. Like,
and marched also with Martin Luther King Jr. And just stood for what is great in this world and got 1 million votes. Right. Come on. Dick Gregory. Hold on, I want to show you something. Please.
This is on my son's piano, so you can see it. This is on our piano, in his piano.
Oh, wow.
That's my son, King, with Dick Gregory, if you can see it without it being on.
Love that.
But that's
cool.
Yeah. So,
and 14?
Now, yeah, he's way taller now. That was a while ago. He cut all his hair off. He's too cool for school now. He's 13 now, headed to high school.
13. Well, I want to tell people a little bit more quickly about your book before I say goodbye and thank you for your time. What's that?
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome. Thank you.
It's completely my pleasure. Here is how We Want Our Bodies Back has been described. Over the past 2 decades, Jessica Care Moore has become a cultural force as a poet, performer, publisher, activist, and critic. Reflecting her transcendent electric voice, this searing poetry collection is filled with moving, original stanzas that speak to both Black women's creative and intellectual power and express the pain, sadness, and anger of those who suffer constant scrutiny because of their gender and race. Fierce and passionate, Jessica Care Moore argues that Black women spend their lives building a physical and emotional shelter to protect themselves from misogyny, criminalization, hatred, stereotype, sexual assault, objectification, patriarchy, and death threats. We Want Our Bodies Back is an exploration, a defiant stance against these many attacks.
Yeah. It's a book of love poems too. It's all love poems to me. Just so
Talib Kweli said, Jessica Care Moore is my hero, powerful, beautiful, excellent, and unapologetically Black. She is who I want to be when I grow up. Right allows us to be seen for who we truly are. That is high praise.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We're never growing up, so he'll never become that. Because I know he don't want to grow up for real. Yeah, I've been blessed. And I had some beautiful people quote up. Patricia Smith gave me great quotes, and then Tracy K. Smith, the U.S. Poet Laureate, just gifted me with a beautiful blurb. And Boots Riley actually who did Sorry to Bother You.
One of the best movies I've seen in the last 10 years.
He's from Detroit, just so we're clear. I know Oakland be like Oakland, but he's born in Detroit. And that's his quote was, there's many times that Jessica Care Moore's work has made me spend hours figuring out how much of her work would be socially acceptable to steal. I really wish she had put this out when I was writing my last album. He's a nuts. I was a big fan of The Coup, so I've known him for many years, through hip hop. So, and then, and if you could tell your audience, please get the music. Black Tea, The Legend of Jesse James is a beautiful album. Jose James is on it. Roy Ayers is on it. Talib is on it. Wordsworth is on it. It's a jazz soul project. I was trying to make a rock and roll album and it wasn't working out. It wasn't sounding right. And so it's I don't know what it is, experimental. And I work with a lot of music. And I got an album coming out with Jeff Mills, techno producer, very famous, and Eddie Fowler.
Incredible.
Yeah, it's coming out in July. It's called The Crystal City is Alive.
How do people follow you on social? And what's your website people can go to?
JessicaCareMore.com and then Jessica Care More, JESSICACARE, like I care about you, MOORE.
Jessica, you're amazing. Thank you so very much for sharing.
Thank you. Yay. I hope I get to see it. So show me where to find this so I can share it with all my people.
Absolutely. It'll be alive right now on Facebook, my Facebook and my youtube.com/bglee might be the easiest one to share. And then the podcast will come out audio and video in the next few days. Yay. Thank you so much. I think it's going to be much better. People like you are on the planet. People like me are on the planet. So we matter. I don't disagree with that. We count. Shit. Get everybody on board. We just got a few billion more to get on board. Yep. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Jessica.